Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Natasha Scott, Executive Director of Student Services for Cumberland County Schools. Now, we have something very special for you tonight, supporting the needs of the whole child, creating calm corners at home. So you ladies are going to bring the tea, the coffee, whatever it is that you drink. We're not going to tell the viewers what is in these cups. But why don't we start by introducing ourselves, and we'll start right here with you.
Hello, my name is Laverne Godfrey Jones, and I'm a teacher at Luther McGerald's Middle School, and I'm also a grandmother of 7.
A grandmother of 7.
Proud grandmother.
Okay, well, you don't look like what you've been through, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Caitlin Lovett. I'm the principal intern at TC Berrien Elementary School, and I am a mom of a 3-nager. So I see calm down corners at school and at home.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Nikita Prescott. I am the school counselor at TC Berrien Elementary School. I am the mom of a Navy soldier, newly in the Navy. So I'm very proud of him.
And I'm Angela Morgan, and I'm a counselor here at Max Abbott Middle, and I'm a mom of 5, 4 that are in high school, and 1 that left me to go to college this year.
Okay, Ms. Morgan, I think you got everybody's attention with that. Mother of 5. You did. So April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So this particular show is very important because all month long, there'll be activities going on all throughout Cumberland County. You guys have probably seen pinwheels posted at your school as you're driving around Fayetteville. You've also seen pinwheels in front of churches. There are some pinwheels in this room. Pinwheels represent having a safe and healthy childhood for all children. And so this particular show, we picked this specific theme on this date in honor of Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so what we're going to share with you, I'm going to tell you about the objectives for today's show. We're going to tell our parents what calm corners are. And we'll talk about calm corners as well as calm spaces. Why do students need one? How can you set up one in your home? Talk about how they're being used currently in Cumberland County schools. And then at the end, we're going to give away 2 calm corners that were put together by Ms. Prescott and Ms. Morgan. And I understand you had a lot of fun going out shopping, and you did this on a dime. So parents don't have to be concerned that this is going to be really expensive because you guys figured out how to make a very low cost but effective calm corner. And you ladies are going to tell us how you actually have been using them currently at your own home. So the best place to start is, what exactly is a calm corner? Who can tell me? What is it?
So basically, a calm corner is a place where students, children can go, or really just anybody can go, where they can take a moment. But in schools, since we're talking about schools, they can go and kind of get their emotions together, take a break, have an opportunity to regulate themselves, have an opportunity to calm down and just gather their thoughts, gather their emotions so that they can progress and move on in a healthy state, a calmer state, so that they can get back to work.
And they're not, I think a lot of people think of a calm space or calm down corner. They might think of a child going to timeout, but it's not really a timeout. It's not a discipline. We don't use it as a discipline in the schools. So we think of it as a chance for the student to go have their opportunity to regulate themselves so that they can make good decisions. And it's not used as a punishment or a discipline. And so it's just it's a place for them to feel safe and be able to make wise choices when they come out of it.
Okay. So what I think I hear you guys saying is that calm corners teach children to be independent, to use self-regulation skills, which is a word that we use a lot at school, is self-regulation skills. Okay, so very good. So how are calm corners being used in Cumberland County schools? And I think each of you probably have a different perspective in terms of what that's like in your individual classroom, in your school, as an administrator and as a counselor. So talk to us.
I utilize the calm corner for students to gain equanimity so that they can have a peace of mind, regroup and reflect, and then get back to their content, get back to the lessons. I've just started using it a month. It's been a month, and I have seen the rewards. It's beneficial. A student will come to me and say, Ms. Godfrey Jones, I need to go to the calm corner. I allow them to go to the calm corner, just as adults have she sheds, man caves.
That's a good
Students
example.
need their calm corners. They need to regroup this as well.
Now, you're in a middle school,
I'm in a
right?
middle school, Luther Nick Gerald's Middle School.
Luther
The
Luther.
Luther Nick Gerald's Middle School.
So do big kids think the calm corner is whack? Or
They
do
think it's
actually-
cool.
They do.
They have their own little space. They have in my calm corner at school, they have their space. They have a mirror with positive, encouraging statements. And they just sit there. They do their work. They continue to do their work if they choose to.
Okay.
If they choose to. So it's beneficial. It's very
Now,
beneficial.
Ms. Godfrey Jones is a little bit different. So from a district perspective, we purchase materials to put calm corners in every elementary classroom K through 5. And then at the secondary level, we provided materials to create 3 calm spaces. But you just decided that you wanted to put one in your
In my
classroom,
classroom.
that you went out and purchased
I
materials on
sure
your
did.
own.
I sure did. I purchased inexpensive materials. And then I also looked on Pinterest
Mhm.
and I just looked there for calm corners and I look for ideas and it's very useful.
Okay.
Very useful.
So, Miss Caitlin, how about, and Miss Prescott, because you guys are both at the same school, right? The Teresa C. Berrien
Absolutely.
Elementary School.
Yes.
Woo-hoo. So how are calm corners being used in the classroom at TC Berrien?
Well, it's really part of our culture at this point. We have them in every classroom. We have one in the multipurpose room where our PE classes take place. We have them in the counselor's office, in the front office. Yeah, because as an administrator, I'm often called to classrooms when a student needs to regulate. They have found themselves in a situation that they can't quite find their way out of. And so it's really shared, a part of our culture, and it really creates a shared understanding in our school because it's a designated spot. So when I go into a classroom and I see a student there, I know what's going on, the student knows what's going on, the other students know that student needs a little space right now, the teacher knows. It's a really great way to create a shared understanding. And then having it in places like the principal's office, our students coming back to school following COVID and not having a lot of exposure to school and that structure, it's been really nice for relationship building because they've been able to see me not so much as the bad guy, but that I'm coming to meet with them and help them regulate their emotions. And we can build relationships that way.
It's also a part of our PBIS program. So because we're elementary, of course, we're teaching about emotions and what these emotions look like, what they tell us, what information we're gaining because of that information. So it rolls into our social skills classes as well. So it's like a foundation for kids to, one, be able to have time to regulate themselves, to calm themselves down, but we're teaching it in our morning meetings. So in class, they know what the calm corner is, what's the purpose of it, how am I supposed to use it, when do I need to use it? And so now they're independent with it and they just go when they need to. But in the beginning, because we've been using them all year, but in the beginning, it was more about us teaching them the purpose of it. It's also a foundation for kids to begin to understand their emotions, and not only understand their emotions, but that's the first step, even into adulthood, being able to take a minute to process how I'm feeling, and then what do I need to do with those emotions afterwards, so I can make healthy choices opposed to me making negative choices because I have all these feelings. I don't know what to do with them. So I'm just going to act out because I need some help. So with the Calm Down Corner, it gives that opportunity for us to teach them how to regulate those emotions, what do I need to do with this and why, and identify the problem too. So it starts with that problem solving skills. So all of that together, it makes for, some healthy socially and emotionally students and children.
And some good conversations.
Yeah.
Good conversation starters, too.
Absolutely.
So Ms. Morgan, tell us about here at the Max Abbott Middle School. You guys have 3 calm spaces.
We do.
And in fact, we're in one of the spaces right now.
Yes, we are. So we're in our 8th grade. We have one in our main office area that's primarily used by the 6th graders. And then we had one in our 7th grade area. And then we have one here in 8th grade. And so they all have different themes that are kind of developmentally appropriate for the age that they're serving. And so this is our 8th grade. one, and it's in a room, and we have, I'm not sure how much you can see, but we have lots of different, if you can't see the wide angle, I'm not sure, but we have punching bags, we have bikes, we have a treadmill, we have flexible seating, we have the yoga mats and different things that you can do that help get energy out, or the yoga mats can be used. One of the things we do is we'll take a CD player and yes, an old CD player, headphones, and they can just lay down and kind of relax. And we have some weighted blankets weighted lap blankets and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways that we use the spaces, but we have the three. And just like you were saying, the social emotional learning that we're really hitting hard this year, and we're doing it as well in our classrooms on Monday mornings. And we're wanting that to roll over into our calm spaces as well. So we're having our students come into the calm space, identify like the level their emotion is, and then choose one strategy. So there's a lot to do in here. And the thought process is, if they skip from place to place to place, then they're not really regulating.
Right.
And so one of the things we're trying to teach is what works for you, because we want them to really think about what works. And as adults, we also, what works for me to calm me down doesn't necessarily work for you. So we have them choose one thing. And then at the end of the 10 minutes, they reassess their level of emotions. And when they reassess, we also want them to tell us why they chose that strategy and did it work for them. And so if it didn't work for them, the next time we encourage them to try a different strategy. And so that's kind of helping them learn, oh, this works for me. And our hope is that when they're in the classroom, then they can choose one of those strategies on their own as they're learning what works for them.
That's perfect.
And it can go into their adulthood. Just like
Exactly. That's what I was about to say, because it's so true.
Life skills.
Exactly. Just listening about the weighted blankets, because I know that that's something that works for me, because I have a weighted blanket, and for the longest I was just like, well, why is it that I feel so comfortable? And then I was like, you know what, this works for me. And so, I mean, it's a good point. It's a really, really good point.
So how did you introduce it to the kids here at the middle school level and at the elementary school level as well?
So we were kind of lucky because before Cumberland County did the calm corners, we had what we called a reset room. It was the exact same concept. And so we had introduced it to our students years ago, but at that point it wasn't accessible all the time to every student. And so the way we've introduced it this year is going into classes and letting the teachers know and the students know, if you are having a hard time, and after COVID, it's just been so important to have that resource. If you're having a hard time in class, and you need 10 minutes to calm down, regulate yourself, then you can ask your teacher if you can go to the calm corner. She calls the front desk, and then they just come up to the calm corner up front, or they'll come here, whichever one is closest to them, and they'll use it for 10 minutes, and then they return to class. So the students know that that is what they can do. They can request it, the teacher calls the staff member, and then they come down to the space and regulate and come back up. And so as they come in, we talk to them. Also, we always have someone there that talks to them just to tell them what the process is, remind them, give them a timer, and then we just leave them alone for the rest of the 10 minutes. Because like we said at the beginning, we want them to learn how to do this on their own, themselves. So
exactly. At the elementary level, so at TC Berrien, we rolled it into our PBIS program. So we have morning meetings across, school-wide. And so a part of the morning meetings is a social and emotional, they have slides, but there's a social and emotional piece to it. So the teachers they take a moment and they actually teach the strategies. And they also take calming breaks throughout the day. They take brain breaks and they teach some of the exercises. They use a lot of yoga exercises and different things to teach the kids those strategies. Some of them, how do you use the things that are in the calm corner, the things that you provided, and some of the things we already had in our calm corners. But that way the kids, it sets their day. So they have their morning meeting, they sit with the classroom, they know what to expect going into the day. And that's already calming enough in itself. I know what's getting ready to happen. But in addition to that, I know if because life happens and something may happen, something may come up. But if I have a problem that comes up, if I get upset, or if I have some emotions that I can't handle in the moment while I'm in class, this is how I take care of myself. This is how I have these opportunities. I have these options. I know where the resources are. I know how to use those resources. So the teachers are constantly teaching those things. But at this point, the kids pretty much know what to do. They know how to use it. They know what it's for. They enjoy it. And now they're in the, probably since I'm gonna say maybe November-ish, they've been in the space where it's just about them exploring the different things, what works for me. And they know what works for them. If it's puzzles is their thing, if it's Play-Doh, if it is breathing is their thing, they know now. So now they're just using the resources and taking that time. And the hope is as they grow and they get older into adulthood, they'll continue that and it'll trigger them like, you know what, this works for me. I'll just automatically go do it no matter where they are, at school, at home, anywhere.
And while you were talking, I thought about conflict resolution skills. Not only are we providing a resource for them to calm down, but we're also preparing them for the 21st century. When they go on the workforce, on the job, we will already have equipped them to calm down eternally, where they don't have to go somewhere. They will know, they'll be equipped with the skills to calm down.
Absolutely.
I thought about that.
It's a good point because a lot of times you know, immediately, especially in the elementary level, they don't know necessarily what to do with those emotions. And we tell them that all the time, especially in social skills classes, that, you know, you're accountable for your behavior.
Right.
And just because you're upset, it's okay if you have these emotions, but what you do with them is what's important. And so, like, again, it sets that groundwork for, you know what, just because I'm upset doesn't mean I get to say whatever I want to say, do whatever I want to do. I need to take a minute. And this is what that minute looks like. So this is a really good point, especially like in the workforce, wherever they go.
Right.
And they're getting comfortable taking that time.
Exactly.
So even as adults, sometimes if we're having that issue at work where we're like, oh, I'm kind of, we tend to not want to take that 10 minutes to just kind of regulate, but we're teaching them early, like, it's okay if you need to. It's better to take the 10 minutes than to destroy your day with something. So
I see a lot of really cool things in here. Like I see this, I'm not sure what you call this thing here, but this really cool thing where students can lay down.
so I'll pull it up. I don't know if you can see it, but so we have these kind of air pouches. We can make them lots of sizes. This is kind of a medium size. You see it's all rolled up here, so you can actually make it pretty big. But adults don't lay on these because you won't get up. But when the students come in and they can kind of sit in here and they get really nice and comfy, and maybe they're playing with a fidget while they're here. Maybe they're just being really still. And so we have those. We have lots of flexible seating in all of our common corners, but you know, we have things that kind of allow you to rock on or sit, and the kids love these. And then some of the favorite, and can you see this bar?
I like that.
Yeah. So these kind of blow up chairs that you just sit on, there's a ball they can spin and stuff. We have those everywhere too, so that they can just sit and do something while they're regulating themselves.
So let me ask you this, for all of you, all of these cool things, there may be some concern about students really using the calm corners as an opportunity to play, as opposed to, we're talking about self-regulation, but maybe some people are concerned, well, it just looks like they're playing. So what's your response to that?
As a parent and as an educator, we are educated and we have the experience and knowledge to observe if a student really needs to go into the calm corner.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time, my students at Luther Nick Gerald, I know that they really need it. I can tell by their facial expression or even their body language. If it's like, we know that as teachers, we know that there's a need. They need to calm down.
Okay, so you just verify and make sure that something's really happening.
Yeah, and we've been doing this all year. So we started out with our calm corners pretty much the first month. And now we're at the end of the school year. And I would say that overall, we have not seen anyone misusing the space or coming in there to play. You know, when you see a kid come in and they've requested it, they do not look happy.
Right.
And you can tell that they need time. And then when they're leaving, you see a different student. And so for us here at Max Abbott, we feel like that's worth it. You're sending a student back to the class that's ready to learn.
Okay. So we have like several pictures. I don't know if our viewers can see the pictures on the screen very well, but we have lots of pictures here. So you can see what some of the creativity and what our calm corners look like in the schools. Don't worry if you cannot see it. We're going to take the link to this presentation and we're going to drop it in the chat box. That way you'll be able to check it out later. It'll give you some ideas of what it can look like. You'll see bean bags. You're going to see tents. You see spaceships, you see cute little rugs that say keep calm and learn on. Some have special lighting. I mean, there's just a lot of creativity. From the district perspective, we really just provided a base. And as you can hear from these ladies, a lot of schools were already doing things, putting things in place. So we really were just supplementing what schools had already put in place. And then, of course, we have our all-star over here who said, I want one in my own classroom for my students. And so we applaud you for that as well. So we've been talking about the kind of items that go into a calm corner, and it can be anything from comfy seating, obviously with the blow up couches and rocking stools, fidgets, stress balls, poppets, what other kind of things are in your calm corners? What do kids like to use the most? Because I keep hearing about fidgets.
So we take a lot of data from our calm corners because we have them circle what they used. So we were able to look over time what is used the most. And fidgets are used the most, and that's any sensory item. So that could be a stress ball, it could be Play-Doh, it could be, we have Rubik's Cubes for the older kids. We have some brain puzzles that are, they use their fingers with. And so anything that is a sensory item, we call that a fidget. And so it's not just the fidget cubes that people might think of. It's a variety of things. And then lots of journaling options. So we do provide journaling prompts, paper for journaling, art journaling, coloring, those type of things.
Yeah, I would say at the elementary level, coloring is probably top of the list, followed by the scented putty. They really like the scented putty.
Lavender especially.
Tactile, they can smell it. It's very nice. Those are probably their favorites.
I have a mirror in my calm corner so they can reflect, look at it's a reflection too. And that's one of the hardest things for adults and students, reflection. Reflect on how you handled the situation, how you could have handled the situation. Just think about it. And that's part of calming down as well.
Okay. And I really like what you said about the having the positive affirmations on the mirror.
Yes.
And that on a sheet that we have them fill out, one of the very first questions we ask after they've calmed down is tell me 3 good things about yourself. And we feel like that's the best time to have that positive affirmation because they have just regulated themselves. And if they can go back, starting off by saying, oh, I know I have these 3 positive attributes. And that's hard for us as adults sometimes in a moment of stress to think of 3 good things about ourselves. But that is so helpful for kids to remember, oh, I have positive attributes. Let me go explore them now. So,
and that's a good point because it gives them a moment to not only calm down and set, but like just slow down for a minute and let it stay. And we're giving them that opportunity because a lot of times, even as adults, we have to slow down sometimes and just take a minute and just take in the moment and be mindful of it. And so it does that for students. We're giving them that opportunity to be able to do that and to own it, say, you know what, I do have these good things about me, now that I'm over this moment, I'm not upset anymore. And this is what's the positive thing that came from it.
Okay. So now I want to switch gears a little bit because I think that parents need and want to know what we're doing in schools and what kind of tools and interventions are available to their students. But I think they also want to know, well, what can I do here at the house? Okay, I need some help at the house with little Johnny, little Sally. She is driving me crazy. And I think I started off saying that April is what? Child Abuse Prevention Month. Okay, this show was for a reason. So as we move on, we want to talk to you a little bit about calm corners at home. Now, you two in particular, maybe you 3, you guys were given a very special assignment by me.
Yes.
Okay, I asked you to go to the Dollar Tree.
Yes.
And to create a calm corner, like a kit, like just a little kit, and put something together that a parent could use at home, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to know what you put together and tell us all about that.
So first off, this was like, I don't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing. I think I spent 3 hours just because I was so excited. I was like, there's so many things in here that we could use to put in a calm corner. And one of the biggest things that we wanted to do is to show that it doesn't have to be something elaborate, that it can be something small as just putting it in a container, a box in the corner, just so that at home, if you have if the child needs a moment, then they just have all their things in here and they can just kind of dig in. But we did put together some kits. For the elementary level, we had like Jenga, we have some bouncy balls, we have bubbles. And a lot of the items have like, especially like the balls have, they're sensory. So they have different, exactly. So you can touch and, feel to help with calming. The bubbles, definitely, it gives you a moment of where you can reflect. It's a positive distraction. So that's
You
one
have
thing.
to deep breathe for a bubble
You
too.
do, you do.
For
You
a
have to use these
successful bubble,
skills.
you need some deep breathing.
You do have to use these skills. And so like with Jenga, it gives you, again, that positive distraction where you have to take time to process how you're feeling, but you have to take time to think about what you're doing. And you're not before you know it, you're not upset anymore. We have some artwork, of course. We have books. They had canvas. I mean, there were just so many items. We have slinky toys. We have slime. A lot of them were tactile and sensory. Things that students can touch, kids can touch.
Really cool.
What was it?
The pillow.
Yes.
Come on, Miss
And it's
Prescott, you
one of
gotta
these-
hold the stuff up.
I'm
and let us
sorry, I'm
see
sorry. Let
it.
me- you know what?
Change
You're supposed to be my banner.
Kids
Yes.
love these things.
Again, it's sensory. You can touch it.
Okay.
We got books because some of our kids like to read and they would love to take that time. They're readers. Some of them that are artists. We have the artwork for them. What else did we have in here?
And you
We had
found
the
all of
3D
these
puzzles.
things at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, all of these things came from the Dollar Tree.
Dollar
I
Tree.
promise. We even the
We are
seating came from the Dollar Tree.
We are not yet sponsored, but should be sponsored by.
Yes, the Dollar Tree. Now, one thing, $1.25 now, that they have a $3 to $5 section. So some of these things were in the $3 to $5 section, but still, all of these items were purchased for $20.
Okay.
So it's a lot of items. So even the stool. So we had some flexible seating if they need that.
Now, did they have some bigger stools?
They did not have bigger stools. They didn't have bigger stools.
Okay.
They're definitely child size,
Okay.
but it works. Even speakers, so that if they want to listen to music, that's definitely a wonderful way to calm yourself. Exactly.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to see what else. We had art trays.
I'll be right back.
My wonderful co-counselor here, she also gave us some items that we could put in that we had. Now, this didn't come from the Dollar Tree, but it did. You created this. You want to tell me a little bit about it?
So these are just breathing cards that we have here at Max Abbott. They hang on the wall and they're laminated. And at the beginning of the year, it's really important to have them laminated because there's a lot of fingers that were touching them. And so we could wipe them down afterwards, but they can pull these cards off. And it's just a breathing exercise. So this is a lazy 8 breathing, and it kind of gives you the direction. So place your finger on an arrow, and then you're going to breathe in as you follow, and then out. And so the student can just sit there and do this breathing, and it kind of helps them regulate their breathing. And as they calm that breathing down, then we know it does a lot of things for the brain chemistry.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of different ones according to what the student likes or the kid likes. And so we place some of those in the bins as well.
Absolutely. So we got journals in here and fidgets. So primarily, most of the things that we put in the elementary level one, or for a smaller child, would be things that were more sensory and tactile, or things that you can see. Now, other than the writing, but that has been, from what I've seen, a lot of the elementary level kids, those are the things that really help them. They benefit from those the most. They enjoy those the most. So that was one of the things, that was my goal, trying to get things that I know that they really respond well to, that helps them. That's like their thing. So that is what we have.
Okay, so while Miss Morgan is getting ready, we are watching the chat box, so that way if we have any questions, we will respond to those questions as we go along. And if you don't have any questions yet, that's okay, but just know that you can put them there. You got some questions?
We do have a few questions. Could you very quickly just go around and give your credentials?
Yes. Okay, so I am Dr. Natasha Scott. So I am Dr. Natasha Scott. I have a master's degree in social work and a doctorate in education and 25 years of experience.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
I don't want to go after you.
All right.
You go next. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Didn't you?
Okay, all right. I am Miss Laverne Godfrey Jones. I have been in education since 2001. I have my bachelor's degree in business, currently pursuing my master's degree in curriculum and instruction. I am a CTE careers teacher. I have been in every sector of education.
Okay.
Every sector of education. I love it. It's in my heart. I hope that's enough credential.
It
It
is.
is in my heart.
It is. The state of North Carolina says yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Caitlin Lovett. My bachelor's degree is in elementary education, and in right at 1 month, I will have a master's degree in school administration. So completing my year-long internship there. And then my probably other largest credential is mother of a 3-year-old, to talk about calming down.
Absolutely. I am Nikita Prescott again. I have my bachelor's in child and family development, my master's in counseling and marriage and family therapy. I have 19 years of experience. I started out as a pre-K teacher, and then I became a school counselor. So I really, I love children. That's just really what it is. I love children and I love families. Really, that's another thing.
I'm Angela Morgan, and I have my bachelor's in psychology and my master's in counseling. And I've been in education for 7 years. And just like you, I think my biggest credential is I have graduated one out of the home, a child out of the home, and she made it safely. She's and I have four kids of mine that are in high school right now. So
You had some more questions for us?
The next one is, how do calming corners help students as an adult when they're not available at their jobs?
Can
you say it again?
As we stated earlier,
Mhm.
it helps them gain conflict resolution skills.
Okay.
So as an elementary student on to middle school, hopefully high school, we would have taught them how to calm down. Even if you're sitting in a chair, you can't get up. The breathing techniques, we would have taught them those breathing techniques that they can carry on through life, just as regular content. Regular content.
And sometimes when we think about it, that as adults, we have to teach ourselves these things, but sometimes, even when you're coming up from being a child to become an adult, we don't always make good choices. And so you have to consider that problem solving is the way to change that. And so you have to take a step to make a decision that, let me figure out what's going on here first. Let me identify what the problem is first. And these are the steps that I need to take to solve that problem in a healthy way so that I'm making good choices opposed to making poor choices. And so that's how it transfers from being a child into adulthood, and how those are where the benefits are.
And I think too, in education, we call it scaffolding. So giving a support. So again, mom of a 3-year-old, I think of potty training, like you have some tools that you use at first that will then go away. We don't just go straight from diaper to girl bathroom. You have the pull-ups along the way, and then you have the reminders for mom every 15 minutes, but eventually they won't need that anymore. And so it's the same way with calming down. So these are supports that we give them because they're children, but like you said, we're teaching them techniques that they don't always have to carry around a sequin pillow with them as a corporate attorney, but those breathing techniques that they learned in 3rd grade, they can still use in a boardroom.
Right.
I would just add from a personal standpoint, before we came on this Facebook Live today, I had a little jitters in my stomach about being on Facebook Live. I don't, I do some public speaking as a part of my job, but sometimes I just get nervous. And so there are coping skills that I do for myself. So for myself, hey, I love the Lord and I love scripture, and I have scriptures that I meditate and chant to myself. So again, I don't have to have a pillow that I can rub, but I have those little tools that are known to me, and no one else may know what's happening inside of my head. But when I am in a scenario on my job or wherever, and I've got those little butterflies in my stomach or that anxious feeling, that I do know how to do that deep breathing or that, that chanting or reciting a scripture, just to bring that calm so that I can then step forward and take care of the business that needs to be done. And I think it's the same thing for students, that they are little people. They are little people, and they get upset and they get nervous. And sometimes they just need an opportunity to kind of collect themselves as well. And that's what the Calm Corner supports.
And I think also, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, at home too, just a kind of different take on the question. At home, when you're talking about these things that we're learning that we use as adults now, because we're learning these skills, and we want them to be independent in using those skills.
Exactly.
And another reason that we think that Calm Corners at home are great for that independence is you're not always available. And if you have a younger kid, that secondary students, that's a little bit different. But when you have these elementary kids and you're getting home from work and they're getting home from school, and it's kind of chaotic and you're making supper and something happens and the kiddo's way up here and you can't stop everything to deal with that as a parent all the time. And that's kind of hard. And so creating these spaces and learning that independence now, I'm going to help you in a minute, but I need you to go spend 10 minutes over here so that you can finish doing what you're doing. They're learning those independent skills right there that are translating into what you're saying right now, that they're going to be using for the rest of their life. And you're also getting a benefit because you're getting to continue with the things that you need to do.
Right.
So there's so many benefits of having that independence.
All right. What's next?
Are calming corners in all schools or just select schools?
All schools. All schools. I will say they are in various levels of implementation. Some of the things that you've heard here, it's layers to the onion. So it's not just, and you're going to see when we talk a little bit more about how to set up a calm corner in your own home. It's not just you just go buy some cutesy stuff and you put it in the corner. You have to introduce the child to it. You have to explain to them how to use the items, the purpose of the items, and then establish some rules and some boundaries that go to that. So I would say they are in every school, but they are in different levels of implementation.
All right, the last question I have is, isn't a calming corner a way of nurturing bad behavior by giving them fun time?
No,
We have so many answers for this.
No. In a classroom, it is the educator's responsibility to provide rigorous engagement activity, relevant resources, and what we're providing is relevant resources to help them calm down. And it also grants good relationship, because the student will say she or he, the teacher, is concerned about me. And that will build good relationship and rapport with the educators. So we're not putting a Band-Aid on discipline at all. We're trying to help them. We're trying to redirect them so that they won't make bad choices. Would you agree?
And I love this question so much because I thought that at the beginning of this year. As we were going into this process, I was thinking, being an administrator and being responsible for creating a safe place, I'm thinking I can see all the places this can go bad. But now I have one at my home for my own child. And so it's about the way you present it. And it's also very important that we talk about when you use it. This is not when a kid goes up to another kid and falls off and hits them and you say, that's not the time. And so at home, for me, with a 3-year-old, there are times when she is being defiant because she's 3. That's not the time that I use the corner. The time that I use the corner is when I see that she's moving into that stage, when I can catch it before we get there and try to teach her how to avoid that altogether. Same things in schools. Before we see it escalating to that point, it's before it gets there, because it's a prevention strategy rather than a discipline strategy. So it's important to talk about when it's to be used.
I
Yeah,
wish
it's
we had
not
a calm
reactive.
corner.
Right.
And I think we also need to remember that all behaviors have emotions behind them. And so we have to think about what's going on really. Like we're focused on the behaviors, but why are they having those behaviors? And sometimes being in that calm corner, having those moments, creating that independence so that I can take care of myself before I get to that point. Like you said, making those poor choices, then I can work out some of those things about why I'm feeling that way. And then when you take that time to process with an adult, if you're depending on the age level, then maybe you'll find out some things that maybe as a parent, as an educator, that you didn't know was even going on now because they took that time to calm down. They took that time to process in the calm corner. And now they can process with you because this is a little bit more involved than I can handle by myself.
And
I
they
need some
trust
help
you.
with it.
And
Exactly.
they trust you to
Builds
tell you,
relationships.
they tell you what they're feeling. As educators, we're supposed to cater to the whole child.
Exactly.
And when I was a child, we didn't have calm corners. We was instructed, do your lesson, and that's it. They didn't care about your emotions.
Exactly.
But we cater the whole child.
Exactly.
I think that's a great
point.
question though.
That's a
And I
good
love how
point.
you said it's not reactive. It's preventative
It
and not
def-
reactive.
It definitely got a rise and got your emotions. I see that
Back to
there's.
the calm down corner.
Yes, please.
We're
use
the
some of
calm corner
items
advocates.
in the bucket. You have another question or follow-up?
To piggyback off of that, how do you prevent the child from abusing that, from wanting to just come in here? If they see a child that's coming in here and they think that, like I said, it was fun time, how do you prevent them from just acting out just to come here?
So we have not seen that at all this year. And I think being that we've done this for a year, it's been really good to look at that data and say, okay, who's really using it? And it really is being used by students who are not regulated. We have very strict, like they can only choose one thing. So it's not like they can come in and play for, in a middle school, they don't really call it playing, but they can't come in and just rotate through a bunch of different things. They have to choose something and they understand ahead of time, they're choosing it as a strategy to regulate themselves. And then we're pretty strict on our time limit. So we have 10-minute sand timers and they're exactly 10 minutes. And so we flip those sand timers and that's all they get. And so it's not like they are.
Anytime I want, I can
Anytime
just
I
go down there and
want,
hang out.
And what
There
we
are
found in middle school, and it might be different in elementary
Boundaries.
school, but in middle school, it is the students that need regulation that are leaving the classroom to get it. Middle school, we don't really see, there's a social stigma of leaving. So a student who's willing to leave to go calm down, there's a reason they want to do that. We don't really see a mass hysteria of students wanting to leave because someone did. But and the same thing I think would be relevant at home. You're setting those boundaries and you're telling them what it would be for. So if you have like a box, like we found, something to put everything in, you would say, okay, these are not toys. These are not to be strewn all over the house. We're not taking them out of the area where they belong. And they're tools that to be used at a certain time in a certain way. And so when you put those boundaries and rules on something, then I find that kids kind of come in those boundaries. And if you hold those boundaries tight, then that kind of becomes the process for using them. So they don't really try to use them for different things at that point.
And I like the time limits because when they need regulated, they need to own their day. They need to get their day back. So within that 10 minutes, they're taking control of their day again. And I like that. I'm going to start implementing that.
The time limit.
Yeah, I like that.
The
And
time
now-
is important.
It is, and it teaches them when they become adults, don't waste your whole day concentrating on your emotions. Take 10 to 20 minutes for yourself, calm down, and get back to being productive.
We do the same thing in the elementary level. They have timers within their calm corners, and in our office, in the student services, and the counselor's office, we also, like, I give them an invitation because by the time if they come to our office, a lot of times if they couldn't utilize the calm corner in the classroom and they had to come to our office, they're probably a little bit more upset. So sometimes they're at a point where maybe they can't talk. They're not ready to talk. They're not ready to express. So I just give them an invitation to use the calm corner for 10 minutes and then giving them those boundaries. And I think that gives them expectation. I know what's getting ready to happen and it makes them feel safe. So I know I have 10 minutes And then after 10 minutes, then I'll be able to talk to you and process through with you what's going on with me.
That's a really good point for parents too,
Mhm.
because I do this a lot. And so I'm very guilty of this. But, if we see that our kiddo is upset at home, we might be saying like, tell me what's wrong.
Mhm.
And they may not have words for it in that moment,
Exactly.
but as parents, we just kind of want to know. And so we're, hounding them, tell me, but they may not have the words or be able to express it. And so teaching them early on to take that time, they're figuring out during that 10 minutes what's really going on. And then they're able to tell you more about why they're upset, why they're mad, why they're angry. And that helps a lot too. And even for us to know, we can take a break. We don't have to be right here engaging each other. We can take a break from each other. They can go over here. They have time to think. And then that communication is so much better. So we see that in schools, their communication with us as counselors, or the communication with administration, or their communication with their teachers. And at home, I'm sure you see it when you have your kid go there and you come back and there's better communication between mom and child. So that's an important thing.
Which will prevent child abuse, because this is Child Abuse Prevention Month.
That's
So
right.
effective communication at home,
That's right.
it will prevent it. It's a preventive measure.
Yeah.
So just to kind of recap some things that I would like to just kind of to the viewers and to that question, all of our comm corners are monitored by staff. So students are not just going into a space where they're unsupervised. So at the middle and high school level, I think you heard these young ladies explain that when a student needs to use the comm corner, they call down to the room and there's an attendant in there who comes down to get the student. So the student is escorted down and then escorted back. And then there is a time limit. And then in addition to that, there is someone in the comm corner along with the general supervision by the teacher. So the teacher also has some, decision-making about whether or not a student needs to go to the comm corner. So you look at patterns and all those things. We're really covering a lot of the topics. You may have some more questions for us, and we're going to come right back to that, but let's just kind of keep moving a little further. So Miss Morgan, if you would show us some of the things in your bucket there, because we're going to be giving all of this away, and I want you guys to see what's inside.
So ours is for a little bit older student. I also went to the Dollar Tree. For myself, I thought, well, let's have like something, if you could put all this together and it doesn't have to, if you don't have a corner or a space that you've already designated, you can have this very mobile. So you could have it somewhere where, it's together and you say, go get the comm corner and take it over here. So to a space that you have. So we have a cushion that's you can put on the floor. These are great. You put them on a chair or whatever, make it kind of soft. We have this nice comfy blanket so they can wrap up if they need to take that time to just be still. One of the things I like about comm corners, we talk a lot about sensory things and about breathing and blankets, but physical things can help too. And so one of the things we do here at Max Abbott, we have some areas where we can do activities, but we have these foam dice that I got at the Dollar Tree, and you can have your child pick an exercise like jumping jacks or push-ups if they're older or whatever it is. And you roll these, and whatever number they fall on, that's what you do. And so there's little neat things you can do with them. We have, of course, the breathing cards.
Which I love.
And then we have some of the things that, our students here really like stress balls, and they will, I've seen some flattened stress balls this year. So we have a lot of the sensory things like the stress balls. We actually do have a little sand timer. So you can find these to use at home. For the older kids, we have some brain puzzles. So maybe they sit and just try to figure this out and work on it if that's their thing. We have a lot of our students that really like Rubik's Cubes, a ton. So that's nice. Also physical. These things. So I'm not going to do it right here, so I don't hit anybody. But if they need to just stand and paddleball for a while, something that kind of gives them that physical activity. Of course, we have the journaling, some puzzles. Just things that they
like to draw.
Yep, drawing. Lots of markers. Mine was also under $20, so it's Dollar Tree. That's where it's at. I found this at the Dollar Tree, which is really sensory. But I mean, I've sat and played with this during the whole time I was in the store. So I wasn't actually going to get it for the box, but then I realized I've been playing with this the whole time. And it was calming. And one of the things that we added, there's some other things that she had as well, like slinkies. But one of the things that we added in ours is just some calming dough we were making here. So we found that when we were purchasing all this Play-Doh and the students were using it and they're putting it back and it's kind of getting dingy. So we found a good recipe with just flour and water and stuff. So we've been making some so they can just take it, use it, throw it away, and we go on our day. So we do have inside, we had a step somewhere, it's here. We did put the recipe in there because that's one way you can make a lot at one time as a parent, and you can put it somewhere in a airtight jar and then you can have it for a while. So we put that in here as well. And one of the things, so I made two because I got crazy, but it's
So
just to show that there's,
yes,
just to show that there's options. So if you needed to have something, if you have a younger child and you're going somewhere, you can just grab your box. And if you put those rules in place where you say, this is not, we come get this and play with it. This is for a purpose during certain times, then they know that. And last but not least, I will just say this, I did check Amazon because I know we have some people that like to do some online shopping. And I just was curious to see, and I got this entire kit for $6.99, and it has every single sensory item that we use here can be found inside of here. And so even like the little timers,
strip timers.
and so there are ways to find for pretty cheap. There are ways to find different already made products. So that's kind of what we did.
Well, I have to say that you ladies absolutely understood the assignment. Great job with that, and you did it on a dime. So let's just kind of talk quickly about how to set up a calm corner at home, and then we'll come back and take a couple more questions, and we'll give away our door prizes and wrap it up for the evening. So for parents, when they're setting up the calm corners, looks like they should include their child or their student in the planning of the calm corner. Let them give you some ideas and talk with you about what they think should go in the particular space. I think you've heard it said here multiple times to teach your child how to use everything that's included, and don't set expectations or limitations on it, because how you might play with it might be completely different from how your child would, utilize rather than play with the items in the calm corner. Also be consistent. I think I've heard you guys say that repeatedly as well. So you want to be firm, but provide gentle guidance on how and when to actually use the calm corners, set some boundaries around it. And then also you're going to work together with your child or your young person to establish what those rules are. And those rules are really just meant to be, this is when we use the calm corner and when we don't use the calm corner. All right. So, and then last but not least, once you get your calm corner in place, I think a part that maybe you've kind of touched on it some, but after the student uses the calm corner, what needs to happen at home? Do they just go over there and play? So now I've got 10 minutes to myself. Ooh, thank you. Or is there something that the parent, guardian, auntie, grandmama, whoever it is, whoever that loved one is, what should they do after the student uses the calm corner? Because it really is meant to be a time of reflection and not just a time to go play and give teachers or parents a break at home.
Well, I love your reflection sheet here at school. And so a more home-like style of that would just, for my family, be a conversation. So we're going to sit down together afterwards and say, how do you feel now? And so in her 3-year-old language, we've talked about colors that go with emotions. Like she thinks that yellow means happy. And so when she goes to the corner, we'll say, what color do you feel now? I feel red. And then afterwards, okay, you felt red. You spent a little time here. What color are you feeling now? And we can talk about that change and how that makes her feel better and how that's beneficial for her too. So it's just got to be followed up by a conversation every time.
And I think if you have an older child, then those conversations still take place. They're just a little bit different developmentally. So you might be asking, how do you feel now? And then you might ask them the same type of questions we ask here. What did you choose to do? How did it help you? And then you can even follow that up with, I'm wondering how that can help you in a different situation.
Right,
How might you
right.
use that if you don't have the calm corner? So how might you use that at school? Or how would you maybe use that with your sibling? Or how could you maybe use that in a different capacity? So you're kind of making them think, oh, well, I went and I sat and I journaled and that really helped me. And so what can I do if I'm starting to feel unregulated at school or in a different setting? How can I use that same strategy? So you're having those conversations.
And mine as well. We conversate a lot, but with me, I want to know what made you have these feelings so that they can identify their personality traits. What triggered you? And I love having those discussions with my grandchildren. And once after they get through the crying and all of this, and grandma, what made you feel this way, baby?
So you focus on what was the root cause.
What was the
of it.
root? So when it happens again, they can identify their feelings. Yeah, conversation is the best at home.
And I think it's really important that we say this too. We talked about it some in the school setting, but it's really important at home that this is introduced not when it is needed. That this is a conversation that you go through the items, that you talk about when it's used, what it's used before it ever comes up as a need.
Wow,
So a time when they're super, like she would say, very yellow, very happy, fun, we're going to talk about it, and it's not introduced in a time of needing it. I think that's important too.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that. So just to recap, calm corners, they're not the same as timeout. It's an opportunity to reset, chill, slow down, or as we say, gather yourself together. I think some people say that. And it's meant to be a prevention before a problem arises. Calm corners are appropriate for young children, teens, as well as adults. So I don't have a calm corner at home, but I do have a little kitchen garden. And that is my safe place. If I've had a hard day at work or with my family or whatever, I like to go outside in my garden and put my hands in that dirt, plant things, repot things. So, it's kind of how you think about it. Depends on the perspective. So that is the calming and the peaceful space for me to just kind of work my stuff out. And you probably have a place like that too. But calm corners can also be fun, but you do need to teach your children how and when to use it. Teach them before you need it, right? And be firm, but give gentle guidance and set some rules around what you've put in place in order for that tool to work.
Right.
I believe that we have some more questions. We've got a couple more questions, so let's check that out.
The first question I had was, are parents notified when their children are utilizing the calming corner?
We do not. The Calm Corner is right at the elementary school. It's right there in the classroom under the guidance of the teacher. So as a general rule, no, but I would say it really would depend on the reason. If you've got a student who's really upset and having a major issue at school, absolutely the parent is going to be called. And so let me say a little bit more about that. So for example, I've heard some teachers talk about that maybe a student is working on a problem, a math problem, and they get frustrated and they need to just take a break from that problem. And they go over and sit down in the calm corner just to kind of reset their mind before they come back to the work. We're not going to contact parents to say, little Johnny got a little frustrated with his math problem and he said he needed a break. We're not going to do that. But absolutely, if you've got a student who's really crying and upset and got some major issues that's going on with that student, those are times that it would be appropriate to contact the parent, guardian, or whoever's in charge of that student.
And it's not a consequence, it's a preventive measure.
The next one was, what about a school that does not have it? You said they're implemented in different levels at the school. So how would a parent know if it's there if they say that they haven't seen that?
Just simply talk to the administrator about it, the administrator at that school. I would say one of the challenges that we ran into this year, when you order that amount of stuff from the same, we had a bid process. So it took a minute to actually get all the items in place for 89 schools. So there was a bid process that took time. And then if you think about all of the K-5 classrooms in Cumberland County, and then you also think about 3 calm spaces in every middle and high school in the district, And then all the beanbag chairs that came from Oklahoma or Texas or wherever they came from to make their way, and all the logistical and transportation kinds of things that were happening as a result of COVID. The items honestly did come in at various rates. So all of the schools have the materials, and I say they're at varying levels of implementation, meaning because it took we did have some logistical issues with just getting all of the items actually here from the vendors. So the items are there, varying levels of implementation, depending on how those items showed up at the school. So some schools, for example, started right away, even though they only had a few of their items, and then continued to add things, whereas others held on to all of their items so they could give them to their teachers all at once. Some schools, for example, I've seen some schools implement a few model classrooms so that they could really get the feel for how do we do this, do it well and do it right. And then in August, whereas you have a couple model classrooms now, in August, you'll see them in every classroom across the building.
The last question was asking if the presentation would be translated for our Spanish-speaking families.
So I actually need some help with my friends from communications. How and when do you translate? So it sounds like that's a yes, that we can
It
do
would be
that.
something that we would have to work on, but that is something that could be done.
Okay, so we'll work on it. We'll get it done. It will be posted on the website so you can see it in the encore presentation.
And great question.
Yeah,
Thanks for
absolutely.
thinking about that.
Absolutely.
That's it.